Have you ever stopped to think why being intelligent sometimes feels more like a curse than a blessing? Why do the most brilliant minds often end up isolated, while those of average intelligence seem to thrive socially? Arthur Schopenhauer, one of history's most brutally honest philosophers, cracked this riddle nearly 200 years ago. He discovered that intelligence itself becomes a mirror, reflecting back the limitations of others. And people don't like what they see when they're forced to confront their own limitations, which is why they'll rarely forgive you for showing them. Most people assume that it's just a coincidence that brilliant minds often live lonely lives, or that smart people are just socially awkward. But Schopenhauer saw something much deeper, a consistent pattern that plays out in every society, in every age. He noticed something fascinating. When you put an intelligent person in a room, they don't have to say a word to make others uncomfortable. Their mere presence becomes like holding up a mirror, forcing everyone else to see their own limitations. And let's face it, no one enjoys looking at a mirror that shows them things they'd rather ignore. Think about it. We celebrate all kinds of superiority. Money? People love wealthy folks. Good looks? We can't get enough. Physical strength? That too gets admiration. But intelligence? That's different. Superior intelligence stirs up a special kind of resentment, a quiet, simmering hatred that most people won't even admit to themselves. So how did Schopenhauer come to understand this dark side of human nature? And why do his insights matter more than ever in today's world? Born in 1788 in Germany, Schopenhauer wasn't just a philosopher theorizing about life from an ivory tower. He lived through the exact dynamics he wrote about. As a young lecturer, he scheduled his university classes at the same time as the famous philosopher Hegel, whom he saw as a fraud. While Hegel's lectures packed the halls, Schopenhauer's sat empty. But instead of wallowing in bitterness, he became curious. Why did people flock to comforting nonsense while avoiding harder truths? He began to observe how people behaved around intelligence, not just in universities, but everywhere. What Schopenhauer discovered wasn't just a quirky social observation. It was a profound insight into human behavior. The smarter someone is, the more others find subtle ways to exclude them. Not because they're rude or arrogant, but simply because their intelligence makes others feel smaller. Schopenhauer, living modestly off his inheritance, had the freedom to observe society without needing its approval. He watched how people gathered in groups, who they welcomed, and who they pushed away. The patterns he saw were ugly but consistent, and modern science has caught up with what Schopenhauer observed through pure insight. Recent studies in social psychology have uncovered fascinating evidence about why intelligent people face social rejection. Brain imaging research shows something remarkable. When people feel intellectually inferior, it activates the same neural pathways as physical pain. It's not just a metaphor when people say intelligence hurts their ego. It literally triggers pain responses in the brain. A 2021 study found that exposure to superior intelligence activates our threat detection systems, specifically the amygdala, our brain's alarm system. It lights up when we encounter someone significantly smarter than us, a response that mirrors the way we react to physical threats. It's an instinctive reaction, hard to control. Researchers at Stanford took this a step further and discovered that this response is even stronger in group settings. When people are alone with someone more intelligent, the threat response is minimal, but add more people to the room, and it spikes dramatically. It's as if our brains are wired to protect our social status more than our private self-image. But this hardwired response isn't the whole story. Schopenhauer's insights into how we consciously process this unconscious reaction reveal something even more profound. Here's what Schopenhauer discovered. People don't just randomly dislike intelligence. It triggers something deep in human psychology, something most of us won't even admit to ourselves. When someone smarter enters a conversation, everyone else unconsciously measures themselves against them. Not because they want to, but because they can't help it. It's like putting a professional athlete in a casual pickup game. Suddenly, everyone feels their limitations. Schopenhauer noticed how people react to this feeling. They don't say, "Wow, this person makes me feel dumb." Instead, they assume the intelligent person looks down on them, even if the smart person hasn't said a word about their intelligence. Others feel judged just by the mere presence of superior intelligence. And here's the really interesting part. The smarter someone is, the less likely they are to actually judge others. But that doesn't matter. People react to the mirror intelligence holds up, not to any real judgment. This is why you often hear things like, "They think they're so smart," about people who've never claimed to be intelligent at all. But why do we react this way to intelligence, when other forms of superiority don't bother us nearly as much? Schopenhauer noticed something particularly interesting about how intelligence affects men and women differently. For intelligent men, rejection often comes as direct confrontation or subtle exclusion. But for intelligent women, Schopenhauer observed a double bind. They face resistance not just for their intelligence, but also for breaking social expectations about how women should behave and present themselves. He pointed out how society often forces intelligent women to choose between being liked and being respected. Beauty in women is celebrated, but intelligence gets a different response. An intelligent, beautiful woman, Schopenhauer noted, often faces more isolation than either quality alone would cause. Beauty attracts superficial attention, but intelligence pushes it away. Modern research backs this up. Studies show that intelligent women often downplay their capabilities in social settings, something their male counterparts feel less pressure to do. They're more likely to face what psychologists now call the competence-likability trade-off. The more competent they appear, the less likable they're rated by both men and women. Isn't it strange how the most popular person in a group is rarely the smartest? Schopenhauer explained why mediocrity makes people feel comfortable. It's like a warm blanket, reassuring everyone that they're just fine as they are. Average minds have a special social power. They don't challenge anyone's self-image. They don't accidentally make others question their own thinking. Instead, they make everyone feel good about their level of intellect. Think about conversations at most social gatherings. They stick to simple topics, obvious jokes, basic observations, because keeping things surface level keeps everyone comfortable. The moment someone introduces a more complex idea, you can feel the room tense up. Schopenhauer saw how this pattern played out in every field. Mediocre artists got more exhibitions than brilliant ones. Average writers sold more books than profound ones. Not because people couldn't tell the difference, but because mediocrity never made them feel inadequate. Now let me show you how this same pattern plays out in today's world, and why it might be even stronger than ever. Look around your workplace, or scroll through social media. Schopenhauer's insights are playing out everywhere, just in modern forms. That brilliant colleague who gets left out of lunch invites. The thoughtful posts that get ignored while simple memes go viral. It's the same pattern Schopenhauer spotted 200 years ago. In today's offices, we've given it new names: culture fit or emotional intelligence. Sure, these things matter. But how often is not being a culture fit really code for you make others feel intellectually uncomfortable? Even in tech companies that claim to value intelligence, The most successful people aren't usually the smartest. They're the ones who make others feel smart. Social media has made this even more obvious. Complex ideas get ignored, while oversimplified hot takes go viral. Why? Because depth makes people think, and thinking makes people uncomfortable. It's easier to share a simple opinion that makes everyone nod than a complex truth that makes people question things. Even in education, we see it. Schools claim they value intelligence, but watch what really gets rewarded. It's usually not the most original thinkers, but the ones who make ideas simple enough for everyone to feel included. Here's the strangest part of how society treats intelligence. We need it desperately, but we resist it actively. Schopenhauer called this the ultimate social paradox. Every society celebrates its geniuses after they're dead. Newton, Einstein, Marie Curie. We put them on pedestals now, but during their lives they were often isolated. Newton was notorious for his lack of friends. Einstein was called a fool by his teachers. Curie was rejected by the scientific establishment. This paradox shows up everywhere. Companies claim they want innovative thinkers, then reject ideas that challenge the status quo. Universities say they seek brilliant minds, but reward conformity over originality. Society needs progress but fights the very people who create it. Schopenhauer explained that intelligence is the only form of power that can't be controlled or predicted. You can regulate wealth, limit physical strength, and even manage beauty standards, but you can't control what a truly intelligent person might think or discover next. Understanding this pattern doesn't mean you're doomed to social isolation. Schopenhauer wasn't just pointing out problems, he was offering us a map. Once you understand why intelligence creates social friction, you can learn to navigate it better. First, recognize that you're not doing anything wrong by being intelligent. The reaction you get isn't personal, it's a natural social dynamic. Understanding this can lift a huge weight off your shoulders. Second, learn to read the room. There's a time and place for deep thinking. Save your most complex ideas for people and situations where they'll be appreciated. This isn't about dumbing yourself down. It's about choosing your moments wisely. Third, find your tribe. Schopenhauer noticed that truly intelligent people tend to form small, tight,